Hi, and welcome to the Interesting Fact Show. You asked for it, so here it is. An in-depth video about the Judas Cradle. History whispers of a device so sinister, so chilling, that it chills the soul. A device known as the Judas Cradle. It embodies the darkest depths of human cruelty. A testament to our capacity for inflicting pain and suffering. The Judas Cradle stands as a haunting reminder of the horrors humanity can inflict. Imagine a world illuminated by flickering candlelight, where shadows danced with secrets they dared not speak. In this world, fear was a potent weapon, wielded by those in power to maintain control. Within the damp, oppressive walls of dungeons and castles, a terrifying device was employed, the Judas Cradle. This was no ordinary cradle meant to soothe and comfort. This was an instrument of agony, meticulously crafted to inflict unimaginable suffering. The Judas Cradle was more than a tool of interrogation. It was a symbol of terror. Join me, dear reader, as we delve into the shadowy depths of history and unearth the secrets of the Judas Cradle. The Judas Cradle, a name that drips with biblical betrayal, was a gruesome reality for many unfortunate souls. This instrument of torture was not meant to kill quickly. Rather, it was a perverse masterpiece designed to prolong agony and break the human spirit. Picture a sturdy wooden or metal frame shaped like an inverted pyramid. From its apex hung a large, thick rope. At the end of this rope, the horror truly began. The victim, stripped bare and bound, was then lowered onto the pointed end of the pyramid. This was the Judas Cradle in its most basic, yet most brutal form. The pointed end of the cradle was meticulously crafted. It wasn't sharp enough to pierce the skin quickly. Instead, it was designed to slowly, agonizingly penetrate the victim's body. The exact origins of the Judas Cradle remain shrouded in the mists of time, adding another layer of chilling mystery to its already terrifying reputation. Some historians believe it emerged during the medieval period, a time when torture was a grim reality in many societies. Others speculate that its roots stretch back even further to ancient civilizations known for their brutal methods of punishment. Despite the lack of definitive historical records, whispers and fragmented accounts of the Judas Cradle surface throughout history. These stories, passed down through generations, speak of its use in various parts of Europe. Some accounts place it in the dungeons of medieval castles, while others link it to the infamous Spanish Inquisition. Each tale, regardless of its origin, paints a chilling picture of the cradle's power to inflict pain and instill terror. The lack of precise documentation adds to the chilling enigma of the Judas Cradle. The true horror of the Judas Cradle lay not just in its design, but in the calculated way it was used to inflict maximum suffering. The tormentors, skilled in their grim craft, understood the human body and the art of breaking it. They knew that the cradle's effectiveness lay not in speed, but in the agonizingly slow, deliberate infliction of pain. The victim, stripped naked, would be hoisted into the air and slowly lowered onto the pointed end of the pyramid. The pressure, concentrated on a single point, was excruciating. To add to their agony, the victim's hands were often bound behind their back, preventing them from alleviating the pressure. The tormentors, like cruel puppeteers, controlled the descent. They could raise or lower the victim with agonizing slowness, prolonging the torture for hours, even days. The victim's own weight became their tormentor, pushing them further onto the unforgiving point. The Judas Cradle was more than just a physical instrument of torture. It was a weapon of psychological warfare. The mere sight of it, looming in the dimly lit dungeons, was enough to strike terror into the hearts of even the bravest souls. The psychological impact of the cradle was just as devastating as the physical pain it inflicted. Imagine the despair of being suspended, helpless and exposed above that agonizing point. The anticipation, the dread of the inevitable pain, would have been almost unbearable. The tormentors, often hidden in the shadows, would have whispered threats, promising relief in exchange for confessions. The victim's mind, already teetering on the brink, would have been bombarded with fear, doubt, and the overwhelming urge to escape the agony, no matter the cost. The constant threat of excruciating pain, the uncertainty of their fate, would have chipped away at their sanity, leaving them vulnerable and desperate for any form of relief. The physical pain inflicted by the Judas Cradle was nothing short of barbaric. The pointed end of the device, slowly but surely piercing the victim's body, targeted sensitive areas to maximize agony. The perineum, the rectum, the vagina. These were the areas often chosen by the torturers. The pain, unimaginable to those fortunate enough to have never experienced it, would have been amplified by the victim's own weight, pressing them deeper onto the unforgiving point. Imagine the searing pain as the point penetrated the flesh, tearing through muscle and tissue. The victim's body would have gone into shock, their screams echoing through the cold, damp dungeon. As the point went deeper, it risked infection, introducing bacteria and foreign matter into the wounds. The victim, already weakened by pain and exhaustion, would have been highly susceptible to infection, which could quickly turn fatal. The prolonged suspension, often in awkward positions, could cause severe muscle cramps, joint dislocations, and even spinal injuries. The combination of pain, exhaustion, and potential complications from infection made the Judas Cradle a truly horrific instrument of torture. The Judas Cradle, like many instruments of torture, was often used to extract confessions. In an age where accusations of heresy, treason, and witchcraft were commonplace, confessions were highly prized by those in power. The threat of the cradle, whispered in hushed tones, was often enough to elicit confessions, true or false. The mere possibility of enduring such unimaginable pain was enough to break the will of even the most resolute individual. The tormentors, driven by a perverse sense of duty, or perhaps a sadistic thirst for suffering, would present the Judas Cradle as a means to an end. "Confess," they would whisper, "and the pain will stop." The victim, stripped of their dignity, their body racked with pain, was often faced with an impossible choice. Endure the agony or confess, even if it meant condemning themselves or others. The confessions extracted under such duress were often unreliable, tainted by pain and desperation. Yet they were often accepted as truth, used to justify punishments and solidify power structures. In the annals of history, where tales of cruelty and barbarism abound, it's tempting to believe that humanity is inherently flawed. Yet even in the darkest of times, glimmers of compassion can be found. The Judas Cradle, despite its horrific nature, was not always used with unwavering cruelty. There are accounts, albeit rare, of the device being employed as a threat, a means of intimidation rather than outright torture. In these instances, the victim might be shown the cradle, allowed to touch its cold, unforgiving surface. The psychological impact of the cradle, the anticipation of unimaginable suffering, was often enough to achieve their aims. Were these instances of restraint driven by a flicker of humanity, a reluctance to inflict unnecessary suffering? Or were they merely calculated tactics, a way to conserve energy and resources? If you found this exploration intriguing, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's dark secrets. The Judas Cradle, a relic of a darker time, might seem like a distant nightmare, a gruesome footnote in the annals of history. Yet, its legacy extends far beyond the dungeons and torture chambers of the past. The echoes of its cruelty can still be felt today, reminding us of the dangers of unchecked power and the fragility of human rights. While the physical device itself is largely relegated to museums and historical texts, the principles behind its use, torture, coercion, and psychological manipulation, are sadly not confined to the past. Reports of torture and inhumane treatment continue to surface around the world, a stark reminder that the capacity for cruelty persists, often hidden behind closed doors and veiled in secrecy. The lessons learned from the Judas Cradle and other instruments of torture should serve as a cautionary tale. The Judas Cradle stands as a chilling testament to the depths of human cruelty. Its story, though shrouded in mystery and often whispered in hushed tones, serves as a stark reminder of the capacity for evil that resides within us all. The cradle's legacy is not one of physical pain alone, but of psychological terror, of the erosion of trust and the disintegration of the human spirit under duress. As we emerge from the shadows of history, we carry with us the weight of these dark tales. The Judas Cradle, though long gone from common use, serves as a potent symbol of the dangers of unchecked power and the seductive allure of cruelty. Its story is a stark reminder that the pursuit of justice must never come at the cost of compassion, and that the protection of human dignity should always be paramount.